All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to jump right into a really intense and demanding sermon from 1982 by Reverend Sun Myung Moon. It lays out this huge cosmic vision. You've got crisis, history, and a call for the ultimate personal sacrifice, all to save the world. It's a lot.
So, here's how we're going to break it down. We're going to follow the sermon's logic, step by step, from its really urgent starting point all the way to its pretty staggering personal conclusion. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so right out of the gate, the sermon sets this tone of extreme urgency, and it does it with a really clever but simple play on words. So it all comes down to one letter, changing an E to a Y, and that becomes the whole foundation for the sermon. The message is crystal clear. This isn't some slow, gradual emergence of a new era. Nope. This is an emergency, a full-blown crisis right now. And, according to the sermon, these critical times, these emergencies throughout history, they've always required one thing to move God's plan forward: sacrifice. The sermon has a specific name for this grand plan. It calls it the dispensation. So what is this crisis? What's the emergency all about? Well, the sermon paints this picture of a huge cosmic battle, a massive struggle that's being fought over one single, incredibly important dividing line.
So you've got these two opposing realms. On one side, God's realm with good people. On the other, Satan's realm. And humanity, we're stuck right in the middle. But here's the kicker. The sermon says that the satanic side isn't just bigger. It's actually way more active out there in the world.
And get this, there is a literal borderline that separates these two forces. But it's not some line in the sand out in a desert. No, this line runs through the entire world. And even more importantly, it runs right through every single one of us. It's inside you. And to show just how dangerous this borderline is, the sermon uses this really vivid image. It says Satan can just loop a string around your big toe if you just stick that one toe over the line and use that to pull your whole body over. Once you're halfway across, he claims the whole person. It's that precarious. So suddenly, this huge cosmic battle becomes intensely personal, right? It's not about them anymore. The sermon is basically forcing you to ask yourself, where am I standing? Am I safely on God's side, or am I teetering on that borderline?
Okay, so why now? Why is this the moment of emergency? To answer that, the sermon lays out this whole view of history, and it's basically a story of one missed opportunity after another, a history of failures.
So look at this timeline. It's like a relay race. Jacob gets the win on the individual level. Then he passes the baton to Moses, who takes it to the national level. Then Jesus comes along and starts pushing it to the world level. But then the final step, the final handoff, gets fumbled. The sermon points the finger directly at America. After World War II, it says America had this God-given chance to take the mission global, to evangelize the whole world, and it dropped the ball.
And that one failure, America's failure, is presented as the direct reason for the mess we're in now. According to the sermon, that's why Christianity is losing its power. That's why millions of people are praying and nothing's happening. It all goes back to that one moment.
So, if traditional Christianity has failed, and America has failed, who's left? The sermon argues that in this time of emergency, a new group has to step up and carry the banner. And that group is the Unification Church. They're positioned as literally the last hope for God. And their to-do list, it's massive. They have to reverse all of those historical failures, they have to fight communism, and they have to do the job that Christianity couldn't finish. And get this, the claim is that their mission is to liberate not just the world, but God himself. And they have a deadline, just 3 years from 1982 to completely change the tide. So you have this image of God literally asking, who's going to help me? Who's going to save the world for me? It frames the whole mission of the Unification Church as not just something they chose to do, but as a direct answer to a desperate cry for help from God. All right, let's bring this all home. How does this massive cosmic story translate to the individual? Well, the final section lays out what's required, and it is intense. The argument is basically this. If you're in a rich country like America, salvation isn't going to be easy. It requires a complete rejection of your comfortable life. You have to voluntarily tighten your belt. You have to choose a harder, more difficult path. And ultimately, you have to be willing to die for this cause.
And then Reverend Moon calls out his American followers directly. He basically says, look, your whole culture is about me, me, me. Can you guys, with that mindset, really handle the kind of selfless commitment this mission needs? Can I really trust you?
And then the demands just go through the roof. The question becomes, what if I decide to make your lives as miserable as the lives of people in Africa? Would you welcome that? Are you really prepared to give up everything you have and choose a life of suffering?
And that leads to the final, ultimate standard. He says, look, if I had to choose between my own family and God's will, I would choose God's will every time. That's the bar. The willingness to sacrifice even your family is presented as the only way forward. And so the whole thing ends by putting that final massive question right back on the listener. After all of this, the cosmic emergency, the history of failure, the call for total sacrifice, it leaves you with one thing to think about. What is your decision?